But I wanted to talk about one of the modifications that I did to this Grom when I first got it. And I don't even know how long it's been. And it's been a long time that I have had the Ohlins suspension on this bike. And that's what I'd like to talk about. I got the kit for the front forks, and I got the rear shock. And I got all that stuff all at the same time because I didn't want to just do like one thing and not the other. You know, I figured it would make the bike feel pretty weird if I did that, so I figured if I was going with the Ohlins setup, then I was going, you know, make the whole bike Ohlins. I just figured I'd do like a little review on what I think of doing that to your Grom. And I have had one problem with the kit for the front, which might have been my fault, and that is that the left side has a leak now. It's not like dripping out of there, but it is kind of, it does get dirty because it's got the oil on it, so I can tell that it does have a leak, but I don't know how much oil it's actually lost out of there. And when you push up and down on, you know, the forks still feel how they should. It doesn't feel like it's like bouncing all over the place or anything like that. You know, so I don't think it's lost that much oil. And I have had one problem with the rear shock, which it's not really a problem, but I might as well tell you about it because I didn't really think it was the best. And that is when you put the kit with the stiffer springs in the front end, and then you put the Ohlins shock on the rear end is super soft compared to the front fork. Just the way the bike moves, the rear end goes up and down like way more. And in order for me to make it so that the rear end of this bike matches like what the dampening of the front forks and what the spring rate, how stiff the front forks are, like for me to match that with the shock, I had to go all the way crank down on the rebound dampening and all the way crank down on the compression dampening, and I had to crank the coil spring down quite a ways, like way over, like the adjustment ring, the threaded ring or whatever, is more than halfway through the threads, you know, through that section, in order to get the stiffness that I needed and the dampening that I needed just for the rear end to keep up with the front end. You know, like the front end is really stiff and the rear end was not that good. The way that Ohlins makes the rear shock, like the valving and the spring rate, it just doesn't keep up with the kit that they make for the front of this bike. It's just not, it's not matched. You know, it needs to be valved stiffer for the rebound and the compression dampening, and it needs to have a stiffer coil spring on it, because I only weigh 150 pounds, and I'm sure there's bigger guys than me with these Groms. So, you know, putting those Ohlins shocks on the back. So, like, why wouldn't you have a stiffer spring on there? That's my only complaint. But other than that, I have nothing but good things to say about the performance of this setup for this bike. Instead of being more like a dual sport or like an off-road travel, which is kind of like how the Grom is stock, you know, it's kind of like, it's got a lot of travel and it's kind of really soft. Now it's like a really short travel and it's really stiff. The way the dampening is, you know, if I stand up and I bounce on it, it barely moves. You know, I'll get like 2 inches of movement out of it. You know, maybe 3, like if I really like bottom the hell out of it. But it's not like it was stock. It's totally stiffer. And it makes a huge difference. You know, I mean, it makes a big enough difference that like if you actually like ride your Grom on dirt roads or whatever, or like off-road, like if you ever off-road your Grom, don't do the Ohlins kit because it is way too stiff. You don't really realize how stiff this suspension is when you're on the street. You're just like, wow, you know, this thing really handles good and it's really got short travel and it feels good that way. Makes the bike feel really fun. And you can ride it really aggressively around town and it's great. Really make the most out of these tires that I got for it. And it wasn't the cheapest thing. It really wasn't. You know, it was 200 and something bucks for the front forks, and it was a lot of work to get those assembled. And it was about 400 and something for the rear shock. So like I said, it's not the cheapest kit, and it's not the easiest thing to install, but the benefits that you will get from it are amazing. If you just plan on riding the Grom on the street only, and you like hitting the canyons and stuff like I do, get a good set of tires. Get those Midas MC35 racing tires. I always call them racing slicks, man. I gotta stop doing that because I'm misleading you guys. They are actually a DOT approved tire, and they hook up super good. I bought the super soft compound for the front and the medium compound for the rear. That's the combination that I'm running. And I'm running 20 PSI in the front and 20 PSI in the back. And dude, those tires with the Ohlins kit, this bike is amazing. So that's my review on the Ohlins kit that you can get for the Grom. In my opinion, it's totally worth it. And maybe the oil leak was just my fault. I wasn't careful enough or something, and I messed up the seal when I was working on it. Who knows? That's it. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.